All right. Welcome back to episode 2 of season 2 of Beloved Soulpreneurs, Women Living Their Souls, Purpose and Power, inspired and inspiring women who are bravely letting their soul lead in their life and their business, who courageously heal what needs to be healed, let go of what needs to be let go of, and continue to step into their soul's mission, living the light of their love, learning and leading with their heart, and aligning with their Dharma and the truth of a simpler and more loving way. I am so excited to be sitting here today with Lorie. Oh my goodness. This is such a joy for me and it's such an honor. I've been watching your videos for a while now and they've just been providing me with so much guidance and truth and validation and clarity, and receiving your book and journeying with that the last few days as well has been just next level. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you, Amy, for having me. I'm excited to dive into these topics and and to see what comes through for us today. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
My pleasure, my absolute pleasure. So for those of you that are new to Lorie's work, Lorie is an author, spiritual teacher, and thought leader. She specializes in the evolution of human consciousness, and her teachings and guidance have continue to spread throughout the world, across the globe, helping people navigate this messy and divine journey of awakening to our truth. So there's so many questions that I had as I was preparing for this interview, and I want to split it into a few different sections because I know there'll be people out there that watch this that have read your book, and there's such a depth of information in that, and I don't want to go into too many of the rabbit holes of that because I know it's out there on your own site and in your own videos and for the book for people. So today we're going to start a bit about you and your own personal journey, and then we're going to start to unpack some of the more chunky spiritual I want to say like hurdles that we can come up against and initiations on our path. And then we'll go into some of the questions I had around the book that I couldn't not ask having you on today. So yeah.
Love it. I love it. Let's go. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Thank you. So you say in your book, this really amazed me actually, and I love the number 13, but at the age of 13, you had this knowing that you were going to be assisting humanity through the collective awakening that was coming without even really knowing what that was looking like. And that just got me so curious and thinking, how did you deal with that? How did that feel? How did that begin to unfold? Because there's some time between age 13 Lorie, right? And the Lorie that decided, okay, I'm stepping off the conventional trajectory and I'm going to make this my full-time gig. So what did that look like, those years in between?
Yeah, it's so fascinating because when I was 13, I remember vividly, I always felt like I was participating in something. Like, I think I'm in something right here. Like I always knew that I was inside a game, or I was like, there was something I was participating in, that this wasn't actually reality, but I didn't really know what that meant. I just had a deeper knowingness that this wasn't everything, that there was so much more beyond what I was experiencing. But it was at 13 when I lived in a beach town in LA, Hermosa Beach, and I was walking from a friend's house home. And I just remember thinking about like what I'm here to do on the planet. I always knew that I was here to do something big. There was something big I'm carrying with me to do. And it was at this moment that I heard this like external guidance from outside of me. A lot of time, the guidance that I receive definitely feels outside of me, like it's coming in as a blowhorn or something, right? And it said, you're here to assist the entire planet in what back then, this was in 1989, we called it the ascension. I call it the evolution in consciousness now, but it's basically evolving into higher states of consciousness. They said, you're going to help an entire planet evolve. And the image that I had was the planet's going to, like, everything's going to sort of we're going to have this massive sort of destruction on the planet, and people are going to need help to sort of pass. Like literally like die or something, right? And I was going to be like the person that would help people off the planet.
Mm.
That was the idea we had, that there was going to be this physical death. And now we're realizing, oh no, it's an energetic death and rebirth that's basically happening on the planet. And I'm sort of this midwife saying, here, grab my hand. I'm going to show you how to do this. You remember. But it was an absolute knowingness. And I knew that it was something that I would have to commit to. And so I would only step into it once I was ready to commit to it. So I always knew it was a choice, that it was waiting for me. I never had to search for it. Like a lot of people are like, what am I here to do? What am I here to do? I've never had that feeling. It's always been, even though I didn't know what it would be, I didn't know what it would look like, I always knew that as long as I committed to it, whatever it was, it would show me what I'm here to do. And that's with everybody. We just get caught up in the details, and we want to control the details of what it's going to look like. So it took me quite a long time. I had to really let go of the very human life I was living, and say enough is enough. I'm ready to jump. And the interesting thing, because I was just interviewed yesterday, the really interesting thing is, so I don't know about you or your listeners, but for me, I had two Lories throughout my life. I had the Lorie that was on mission. I'm here to do something big. I don't know. And nobody understood this, right? My friends thought I was crazy, so it was a very put away kind of part of me that only came out when I wanted to, and with my mom, because she was highly awake and took me on these seminars and stuff. Then there was the very human Lorie that was like, did the drugs and the drinking and the sex and the partying and the regular college and the master's degree, and just played. And I had this belief that it was one or the other, that if I chose the mission, I would lose the human. If I chose the human, I would lose the mission. And when I committed to my work in 2015, when I said, okay, I'll give you guys everything, I'm ready, it took me like 2 to 3 years to start to merge the human and the mission, that they don't have to be separate. Like I can actually be all of me and be goofy and silly and every ounce of who Lorie is, as well as the mission, the part of me that knows all these things and I don't even know how I know them, and start and merge them. And that's been the greatest gift for me, is being able to, because I believe so wholeheartedly in being human, right? And just like, I don't want to bypass any part of that, the human. So learning how to merge the part of me that thought I had to be separate, that thought I had to be different from everyone. We don't. We're here to kind of integrate that, right? Integrate it all into the wholeness of who we are, which is all of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. It's definitely something that resonates with me and I can relate to. I think there's so much of the kind of like spiritual ego that can come in when we wake up to a lot of things and think, oh, well, if I've awoken to this and I can see this and this, then suddenly I need to ascribe to certain paradigms, and I instantly, right, I need to be vegan and give up alcohol. And I definitely found myself doing that as well. And then being like, wait, I don't feel whole, just that part, right? Because this whole other part is still there being like and so to integrate those two, the higher and the lower selves and all the bits in between, yeah, thank you. It's such a huge permission to hear that in a way as well, and it sometimes can take some time to understand how to merge that and to feel into that.
Oh, for sure. It's taken me 2 years. But really the past year, it has not been easy for me, because I have been this teacher. And so I show up as the teacher, and there's nothing wrong with that. Right. But there is every teacher has another side to them. Right. And the issue that I have around the sort of only having the teacher show up is that there is this deeper programming that can happen where we look at these teachers and we see them
The
higher than
guru.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's like, I don't want to perpetuate that. So it's like, if I can just show up in all my messiness, if I can show up, you know, drinking the glass of wine, going out and dancing, doing the human things, people literally are like, oh my God, you're this. Oh my God, they're like shocked when they see like the human kind of part of me showing up. And that just goes to show how programmed we are in terms of seeing sort of a teacher that is here to assist humanity. God forbid they should be human. God forbid they should have anger or rage, or, you know what I mean? Like, we can't wrap our heads around that. Like, you know, and so there's a power to being able to show up in all of who we are, regardless of the label that we're putting on ourselves as ... I think that is such a profound, authentic, raw, empowering way to show up. And it's not easy. It's not easy integrating that, because we think, we're like, oh my God, what is my audience going to think about me?
Yeah. And
if I say that I'm a mess.
You're thinking like, I don't know, for me, it's like, oh, there's human people that I interact with, audience, and then there's spiritual audience. And I mean, if I'm all of me, I'm going to get judged by both, you know, so there's all of that. But we also, there is an awareness, and it's coming out more and more, the more that we're beginning to see more and more truth, right? Like, we can't separate aspects of ourselves, because we just push it into the shadow and then it gets gnarly and it comes out. You know, we're looking at all the guru stories from the last 30 years and they're not good, you know. Like,
it's learn. If you think about what we're talking about, it's like, it's learning how to be all of who we are and not silencing certain aspects for certain groups. But can I be all of me wherever I am? Can I be the spiritual, witchy person that I want to be, that has access to the stars and that can read tarot cards, whatever it is that you're doing, right? Some like really cool stuff. Can I be that with everyone? Or am I keeping it only for a specific audience? And I think that there are steps to that, layers to that, but I truly believe that we're here to be all of it, and to, especially in the spiritual kind of realm, the spiritual kind of programming community paradigm. I think it's really difficult sometimes to be able to be all of it, because there's this idea that we have to be a certain way. And so it's like, let's just break all that down. Let's just, learn how to integrate all of us, all of who we are, all the aspects, and just show up. It's not easy, but it's empowering.
It's empowering, and it's a self-love game, right? To be able to take all the masks off and to show up in that authenticity. We have to meet all those parts of ourselves and be ready to be there for parts of ourselves, no matter what the response is. And there's that nuance of, if we have the awareness of who we're speaking to, it's not about, ramming spiritual truths down someone's throat and pointing out things that, they don't want to talk about or aren't ready to see. It's not that. It's not with an agenda, but just to not hide. I always have the phrase like coming out of the closet. And on one side, it's coming out the spiritual closet. But once you've done that, it's like, okay, can you also be human in that as well? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Being able to not be in any closets, and to not have, and to not worry. I mean, this is, I like I said, I'm always aware of this and practicing this. And it's the vulnerability, being vulnerable, is very, very scary. Being vulnerable, meaning if I show up like I don't know, will people keep trusting me? If I show up, completely messy, will people still trust me? And letting go of the answer, letting go of any of that, and just practicing it's really, on an energetic level, it feels almost nauseating to really show up vulnerably, because you don't have control over how someone's going to view you. That's vulnerability, is letting go of so a lot of times when I show up, I'm very controlled. I know I'm going to do this message. I know it's going to do this, and it's going to do this, and hopefully it impacts. And there's a sense of control. When I show up vulnerably, like on Untangled or on other videos that maybe I'm just randomly ranting on, there is a deeper vulnerability, rawness of like, oh my God, I don't have control of how people are going to see me. I don't have control over how they're going to respond and react. And it's usually those videos, those messages that are the most impactful, because they're the most human. They reach into the humanness. But those are, for me, the hardest ones to do, because it's letting go of that control of how someone's going to perceive me. So the vulnerability is everything in my, especially when you're really starting to step into your soul's purpose. When you start stepping into your soul's purpose, your soul's going to take over.
Yeah, that's so
your light's
true.
going to take over, and you're like, oh shit, I have to do what? You want me to do what? You want me to say what? Oh, I agreed to do this, but I'm not going to do it that way. Can I do it this way? You're like, there's so much, we think that we've done all this work, right? Internal work. But then when we really start to step into our soul's purpose, that we've wanted for so long, we're like, oh shit, just kidding. Like, I can't do this.
Yeah, right.
Wait, I'm just kidding. Can we do it a different way? So your soul will always push you to greater places than what you're comfortable with. That's the whole purpose.
Yes.
It's the blessing and the curse.
Don't we know it? One of the first times, I think, in my vulnerability, and I will always remember it, I was at a festival, and we were invited to stand on stage and to share something we'd never told anyone else. And I was like, no, I'm not partaking this. And I could feel the electricity going through my body, like, you're going up there. And I was like, no fucking way, nah. And I like rode out in resistance for like a good hour. And then I literally found myself walking up, being like, what am I doing? I don't want to do this. And I came onto the stage, and I ended up having this inner dialogue externally, like, I don't want to do this, but I've got to do this. So here I am. I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And so that whole internal process spieled out, and I've never been so scared. Like, my whole body was shaking. And afterwards, I've never felt so connected to everyone that was there. I spoke to so many people, and I was like, wow, this was so beautiful and so petrifying, all at the same time. Yeah.
I was just watching somebody, I forgot who it was last night. And it was like, do the thing that scares you, do the thing that scares you, do the thing that scares you. And I think when we start stepping into our soul's mission, the purpose for being here, even if you don't know what it is, you're always going to show you what it is. It's just that you may not like it. And it's most likely going to push you into things that you would never necessarily choose, you being the identifier as the ego, right? The person, the one that identifies as this human experience. You're most likely not going to necessarily choose the things that scare the heck out of you, but it's the higher self that's going to come in, that's guiding you into your soul's purpose, that's going to say, okay, this is next, going on the stage. Why is going on the stage and being vulnerable next? Because you're going to understand the power of your voice. You're going to understand the power of moving through fear, right? You have to be able to experience a huge amount of fear and push through it in order to recognize that you're constantly going to be pushing through fear, right? How else are you going to navigate what is being called if you're constantly backing away from fear? Fear is always going to be there. So it's like, what is everything you are, this is what I've been playing in so much lately, is that I am always showing myself what I need to see to continue to move into whatever it is I'm creating, right? So there's that version of me that I call it the higher self. You called it the higher version, which I love, right? So whatever word you use, it's an aspect of you that's coming in louder and louder. So let's say you're intending to step into your soul's purpose, doing your work. Okay, put your seatbelt on, because this version of you has now heard the call and is going to bring you everything that is blocking you from stepping
Yes.
into it. So it's going
Yeah.
to show you the limiting beliefs. It's going to show you the fear. And you're thinking to yourself, something's wrong. I'm not able to do this. I'm going the wrong way. Oh my God, it's got to be easy. And it's like, no, this is you showing you what's actually the blockades that you just need to push aside and say, I'm going to choose a different thought. I am worthy. I can do this. I do deserve it. People do want to hear my voice. But that version of you is going to show you what you believe so that you can choose to believe something else so that you can skyrocket into what you're here to do.
Yeah.
We can't shy away from or let the limiting beliefs, let the external, they're going to show you people. You want to step into your soul, watch all these, your soul's purpose. All these people are going to come in and tell you, nope, you're crazy. What do you, and it's not about them. It's about you showing you what you've allowed to stop you. And if you can hold that lens, it's so empowering because you're like, oh my God, I am literally guiding myself. I don't like it. I don't want to see these things, but this is literally me showing me how to do this. And then you start practicing and realizing and learning and, you know, because everybody that's listening to your podcast, there is a deep, deep burning light inside of them that's like, I am ready. I want to do this. I know I came here for something big. You know, I know there is something in me that is craving to be seen by others, right? Whether it's a teaching or my voice or my music or whatever it is, it's inside of you, and it requires so much more than what you realize once you start committing to it. You know, and it's been my biggest teacher for sure, stepping into my mission and my work and what I'm here to do, because I've always said this, that if you really want to grow, if you really want to evolve, then commit to your purpose on the planet, commit to your soul's mission, and watch out, because there's nowhere else to go but in order to do what you came here to do. You got to go in.
Yeah, right. And I find it so empowering when you realize, you know, like you say, all those things that show up, the people that say you're crazy, or the people that don't value, or whatever it is, it's all a reflection of the stuff that you get to clear within, you know, like that's such an amazing flip we get to have. Like, oh wow, this is all just stuff that I've accumulated that I get to transform and change. You said that something so powerful, like it's the fear, like that's where you're going. That's kind of the next step each time, the thing that scares you. What helped you and what continues to help you in those moments to quieten the ego, to allow you to, I mean, there's times, right, where it just happens, like my walking forward, where I'm like, why am I walking? You know, but there's other times as well where we have to take that deeper breath or whatever it is and take that courageous step forward. What has helped you? What continues to help you in doing that and quieten the ego so you can move forward?
I don't think about it. So honestly, like I won't think about it. So one of the meaning, let's see, what would be an example? So if I'm being called to put on a master class and or I'm being called to put on a in-person seminar or something, right? Or I'm being called to go live, meaning there's an intuitiveness, there's a guttural, like, here's what's next. Here's what I'm going to do next. Right. There was a part of you that was outside the stage or off stage. And it was like, here's what's next. Intuitively, deep within you, you knew you were going to go on that stage. Now the ego was fighting. I'm not going on. I'm not, but if you were to have tapped deeper in, you knew deep down, you were going to go on that stage. Okay. So there's two parts of us that play out when fear comes in. One is the ego saying, no, because the ego is starting to go into the future. And the ego's like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. If I go up there, people are going to think this. I have no idea what I'm going to say. So it's the future that starts to create the fear getting louder. You're starting to think about the future. Right? Whereas the higher self is like, okay, intuitively, you know that this is what's next because it's coming up. You're going to be doing this. Here comes fear. All right. So what? Here comes fear. I'm afraid. Yes, I am afraid. Stay there. What happens is that we start to go into the future and we start to think about, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Where am I going to do it? What are people going to think? Whatever that is, that's a future that's literally making fear bigger.
Yeah.
So what I do is, listen, it's happening. I don't know what it's going to look like. All I know is that right here, right now, I'm not doing it. When I do it, I will be in the moment of doing it, and I will let the fear just be. So it's being able to sort of, for me, not let the fear grab me, not let the fear own me. And it requires like an observer. It requires, I don't know if this is making sense, but it requires you to sort of observe yourself with the fear. I have never, ever, 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 ever let fear stop me. Ever. Never. I have done and the way that I've gotten through that is that I literally don't think about it until the moment that I'm about to do it.
I love that. I love that. And I love what you said of like, well, it's happening, like it's fucking happening. So, you know, like just that, it's so simple, but it almost like puts a plug in it. It's like, well, it's happening. This is not open for debate, you know, because I think sometimes when we go into that like future pacing, when it's coming from the ego and it's like that whole spiral we can go into, it's all the other scenarios. Whereas if it's just done in your mind, like, well, it's just happening, it's done, there's no space for it. And I really love that. Like I can feel the energy of that when you say it, like, well, it's happening and I'll be there when I'm there, but I'm not right now. So we're staying in the present.
Exactly.
And we'll deal with it when we're in the present.
Exactly.
Like
I have a 3-day event that I'm doing in person in Sedona. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get so nauseous and want to vomit the night of, right? Of course, I'm going to be so sick to my stomach. I'm going to freak out. You know, the way I do things is I don't ever really outline or plan much until the day of or the day before. And so I could right now, or prior to creating that 3-day event, I could say, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. There's people aren't going to show up. I'm not going to do it. No way. Forget about it. But if something is arising in front of me to do, I just do it. And then I worry about the fear when I'm in that moment about to step on stage. Why am I going to worry about, like, why create the fear in a moment that you're not actually stepping into that which you're afraid of?
Yeah. Why add to it? Yeah.
Why add to it?
Yeah.
Just say yes and keep your head down and keep going.
Yeah.
Stop letting that fear that may be true when you're about to step on stage, right? But you do it anyway. So it's like, until you're on that stage being whatever it is as a metaphor, just say yes. And then quote unquote, worry about what it's going to feel like the moment that you're stepping up. And then you just push through it. You have no choice. Welcome to stepping into your soul's purpose. You have no choice.
Yeah, right.
It's the choice of no choice. You have no choice.
And I don't know about you, but in those moments, then that's when you're in flow, right? And you're not in control, and that the wisdom of that higher self soul is leading, and you don't have to know. You're out of mind. It's, you know, so there's a beautiful kind of contradiction in that, because the mind can't grasp it. Like, wait, I don't know. You know, but that's the flow, and that's the magic. Yeah.
Right. Like when you were on stage, you didn't know, you weren't planning, okay, I'm going to go up on stage and then I'm going to talk to myself.
I was planning the opposite.
Right. It was the opposite. And it was from that kind of messy opposite place where you were the most vulnerable and real that the power came, the impact was, right? You can't plan for that. Now, that's not to say that you don't want to have an outline and, like, you know, if you create courses or if you're doing things, of course you're going to be prepared. But even in that preparation, I never prepare much. I always try my best to be in that flow state that you were in on stage, because it is from that flow state where you are the most in power, the most aligned. So it's a real challenging thing to do, because we're trained to sort of you want to have a controlled state when you're stepping into something you're doing. You want to be like, okay, I know what I'm talking about. And I know I've got this thing that I'm going to do, and here's my outline and blah, blah, blah. But then can you pull in presence? Can you pull in letting the divine flow through you at the same time? Sometimes like your experience, you don't even have the outline. You're just thrown into it. And then you get to experience the divine flowing through you. But can you let the divine flow through you while you are still showing up? Like even with this interview, right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, we've
That's what
got
I'm
all these
thinking.
questions,
Yeah.
but we're going to let the divine kind of also show us the flow and the power of the presence, the power of present moment, the power of now. And so that's the, you don't want to be in such a controlled state that you're like, it's got to go like this and this and this, because you will not have the highest potential, the highest outcome, the highest impact. The highest impact, the highest potentiality of the experience of you showing up is when you are in that now presence. Which means that you do have to let go of control while you're simultaneously moving through some sort of a structured system. Does that make sense?
You'll get this because I know that you're a yoga teacher, right? And you've done a lot of yoga through your life. Teaching yoga is such a great analogy, I think, for that, because you kind of know the plan. And sometimes you go off piece, but like you have a rough outline, but you have to be so present when you're teaching. And you in the energy of it, and you're moving with the breath. So it is that, I definitely think I've learned that dance through teaching yoga over the last few years of like, okay, I can prep, and who knows which version of this will actually happen on the day. I'll do enough of it so I feel like I can move through the fear and go into the class, and especially when you first start teaching. But then it's flow, it's pure flow. It can't not be.
Yeah, that's such a good example as teaching yoga. Yeah. And I think the more that you are comfortable with yourself, the more that you have confidence in yourself, the easier it is to step into that flow and sort of let go. So there's more of a deeper trust in what is arising right here, right now. When there's more confidence in yourself. So in the beginning of anything, you're going to want to control. But then the more that you do it, the more that you realize that you can go off script. And that flow state starts to come in more and more. And then the magic starts to happen. Also with yoga, and even when I show up and do classes and stuff and the seminar, you're playing off the energy of the room. Right? So you're also, you're playing with the other energies. And so there's a beautiful dance that happens as well that can't necessarily always happen if you're staying right on script. You've got to play with the energies.
Totally. I feel like it's like it's like coming off stabilizers, letting go of the handrail. When I first started teaching yoga, I'd have the plan and I would just not even look at people. I'd just do my little, And then what I realized over the last couple of years is I don't actually bother planning now, because I completely ignore what I plan normally, because I tap into, and the joy for me in teaching is the energy side of it. Where are people at? What am I feeling? Where can we go with that? And so then it becomes that play. And I don't bother planning, because there's no point. I just ignore it and go with the flow. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's the best. Those are the best yoga classes. When I take yoga, I love the teachers that you can tell they're in flow and they're playing off our energy. They're with us. They're with us. And it makes a huge difference, but it takes practice. It takes practice in trusting you and how you read the energies of yourself and the room. It's where we're going. It's how we're designed to be, for sure. But
and it's also like the core competencies, isn't it? I forget the word, where you make something conscious and then it becomes unconscious and you've learned the pattern. There's a competency there that allows you to do that. It's like, when I was learning from my teacher, he could be teaching us how to teach whilst teaching a group. So he was doing like three things at once. We were just learning to do one thing. And that's because he'd built up those core competencies, I think. So it's definitely a process. For sure.
And that's with everything. I mean, that's with becoming the observer. The observer becomes something that you're practicing and practicing and practicing until all of a sudden it's a core competency. You're not thinking about it anymore. Now you're just the observer, right? Being in a flow state with your emotions. You're practicing, how do I just feel what arises? You have to start to practice it. Oh, here comes an emotion. Here it comes. I'm going to feel it, right? Like, what do I mean? What do you mean, Lorie, that I have to feel it? Like, how does it? So you're trying to practice it. And then all of a sudden, the more you practice just feeling the emotion, it becomes what you've called a core competency. And now you're not thinking about it. Now you're just flowing through the day. Everything comes up. You're not even recognizing that you're feeling, because you're just feeling.
Mm.
Like when you're teaching, you don't even recognize that you're in flow teaching.
Mm.
You're just teaching. You're not thinking to yourself, I am now going to move them into, like, you're just in that flow state of teaching. So there's no thought almost, right? There's just this weird energetic flow. That's how we're designed to live in life, as this, like, I'm just flowing through. I'm not necessarily, it's like there's you're with life. You're in life moving, but it takes so much practice to get in. It's like, can you like get into the river, and the river being life, and let life show you. And you're like, yes, but I need this, and I need this, and I need this raft, I need this bathing suit, I need this, right? We're trying to prepare to be able to go into a flow state of the river. And once you're in there, the bathing suit doesn't matter, the raft doesn't matter, none of that matters, right? You're just like, oh, this had nothing to do with all the things I was trying to control. Got it, right? Okay. So it's like these, I like the words you use, those core competencies, because they become automatic. You start learning how to ride the waves. You start learning how to ride the rapids. You stop trying to predict the future. You stop trying to control the emotions. You stop trying to, outline the perfect class, because you realize that the perfect class is just in the messiness of showing up. But there is a purpose for creating, for practicing. We have to practice. And then they become what you call core competencies, which I love, because they're the natural way that we're designed to be.
Yeah, thank you. And then it can start to become joyful and even playful, when you've like with emotions, for example, definitely we're so programmed, hard emotions, don't let them come up, suppress. And then once you realize, oh, I feel something coming up, I've let it out, I've had a cry, I feel so much better afterwards. For me, I've reached this point with it recently where I'm like, oh, heavy emotion, okay, I'm gonna have a cry, it's gonna be great, I'm gonna feel better afterwards. Might take a while, that's okay, but there's like a joy where you're like, oh, it's a wave, and that comes through the doing of it, like with anything. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's making me laugh so much inside, because as you know, I've prepared so many questions for today, so it's like the perfect analogy of everything we're talking about.
It's great. It's like, if we
So
can laugh at
perfect.
ourselves, right? It's like, but we have to, you want to be prepared. You want to be able, you're not going to just be stupid and jump in the river, right? You're going to be like, oh, no. I'm going to have the perfect raft, and I'm going to have the perfect bathing suit, and I'm going to have the perfect little oar things that, like, I'm going to be prepared. And then once you jump in, you realize that, that you're safe to be able
You're
to go
buoyant.
through it.
Yeah. You float.
Yeah, you just start to flow. But it's just constant compassion for yourself, like laughing, right? Just not being so hard on ourselves. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay that you have 17,000 notes that you're taking, and to show up and to do things. That's beautiful. Welcome to the human, right? You have all kinds of outlines and perfected PDFs, and those are so great. That's fab. There's nothing wrong with that. But you'll start to notice that if you're in a more present state as you're teaching, if you're in a more present state as you're showing up, you'll start to let go of that more, what's the right word? There's no right word, but the more kind of conditioned, restrictive state, which is what your soul wants. Your soul wants to be able to express itself in its most aligned state, which is not necessarily through the restriction of control, although it understands why the human's doing that. It would like to be in more of a energetic flow state, which is much more difficult. It would be like me showing up for the seminar. There's no way I would ever do this, but it would be like me showing up without a plan, kind of, right? And just going up on stage and letting it flow. And that would be horrific in my mind. But that is really where the soul shines the most. So again, it's this balance of, I've got my outline, I know what I'm doing. And can I step into that now, the more of a present state where you step into flow, where something bigger than you starts to move through you, right? it's almost like what you were saying in the beginning before we hit record. It was like the book came in the mail, it was sitting in your room, and then something started flowing through you that was bigger than you almost, right? Like something started happening where it was like, you knew in that moment, I'm just going to assume, but it was like, there's this feeling of like, oh, something else is happening right now. Like there's something bigger than me, but that is me, that's moving through me. So it's not outside of you, it's you, but it's a state of being that you're not always used to being in, you know?
For me, it feels like I've been plugged in, like, because there's more electricity in my body. Sometimes when it first started happening, I felt a bit like a little bit scared by it, a little bit overwhelmed by it, I would say, because there's more charge moving through. There'd be more ideas, there'd be more clarity, there'd be more downloads. Sometimes it would be like, do I need to move my physical body? What do I do with this energy? But yeah, that's how it felt when the book was here. And there's times when I really feel like things are dropping in, or I'm getting downloads, or I'm really connected. That's how it feels, like I've just been plugged into electrical, socket.
I love that. That's such a great analogy, because that is kind of what's happening. Your body is charging. So it's getting electrified. It's kind of turning on. And so everything gets heightened, and it can feel very disoriented in the beginning if you're not used to it, because it's pulling you out of kind of thought. Even though there's still thoughts coming through, it pulls you out of, you're not in control. You're sort of just, you're now turned on, and something is moving you that's not in a controlled state. So it's a very flowy state that's charged. Yeah.
It feels less linear to me sometimes as well. Like with ideas, it won't necessarily be like something could come in and it might be for in 3 years, or like with my book, I'll jump between things. And I'm also seeing it like, we have to create the structure, like you say, that might be the plan to begin with, like you're going to do for your 3 days, like you're going to give yourself that plan, that structure, that sort of masculine piece to it, so that you can flow within it. Like that does have a place, and there's a dance and a balance. Like bizarrely, with the questions that none of them I've asked, we've covered none of the rest. We've actually covered a lot of the topics just by being in flow. Like I keep looking through and be like, okay, we kind of touched on that, right?
I love what you brought up, the masculine and the feminine, because that is it. It's the balancing of the masculine and the feminine. So the masculine is like, I need a structure. I'll feel confident. I'll feel good. But I also want to balance the feminine, which is like, I'm going to move and flow. I'm going to see what comes up. I'm going to feel into, because when you step into that more feminine energy, you step out of time. So you start to like, there's that you move into that flow state. Same with when you get charged in. And we're starting to feel this more and more, just quite naturally in our everyday, where time is starting to dissolve. It's like, you're no longer kind of in a space of time, like you said, linearity. So you're pulling things that are like, maybe years from now you're going to do, or something that comes in that doesn't really have a place yet. And then other things are coming in and you're not sure how they're going to fit into what you're doing, but it's like a quantum field that you're pulling pieces out of and into more of a linear field. So it feels very discombobulated, like, what is all of this? Because you're trying to pull it into like a linear, structured time space. So it's a very wonky kind of experience that you start to have, and you just start learning how to be in it. You start learning how to just allow the wonkiness to kind of be,
right? Just that trippiness. It's like kids when they're making art, isn't it? Like there's a chaos, but there's an order to that chaos in some form.
Exactly. That's why it's like, for me, it's just messy. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no A to B for me. It's not meaning like, it's not like life isn't pretty. What I mean when I say life isn't pretty is it's not straight. it's not like my day is all over the place. I may wake up in a really beautiful state, and then in 6 hours I may be in a really shitty mood. So for me, there isn't a straightforward, this is how life goes type of way of being. It's like, just show me whatever needs to be seen. And in that state, it's very messy in the sense that you're just going to be doing this. There may be an hour in your day where you're in a super high frequency. 2 hours later, you're in a really lower kind of state, and you're exhausted and you're irritated. And then 3 hours later, you're in some other state. So it's just this really beautiful but wonky way of being right now, that we're remembering how to allow ourselves to be in, and so it's letting go of this need for it to be perfect, this need for it to be pretty, this need for it to be any other way than however it is showing up. Like, can we trust that? Can we trust that messiness? Can we trust, when you get charged and plugged in and you're like, oh, can you just trust that?
Yeah. And when we jump, is that us shifting dimensions as well? Is that us getting used to the fact that we're becoming these multidimensional beings? 3D, we're hitting trauma. Oh, we're plugged in, really inspired. We're going up, feeling some 5D version of ourselves. Like, is that kind of what's happening?
1,000%, 1,000%. And there's a knowingness in you. There's a deep remembrance of this. So it's like what's a good analogy? It's hard to describe it, but it's like there's always this constant movement up and down. So it's like the more that you're aware, the more that you're observing yourself, right? Meaning that I am like, people always say, well, give me an example of what it means to be the observer. Well, right now I'm talking to you, but I'm also aware that I'm talking to you. There's this other part that's kind of aware of what I'm doing. There's a part of me that's like, oh, you're now thinking about something else. Oh, now you're focused again. Oh, now you're doing this. So there's the observer is always aware of what the kind of human ego is doing. Oh, I'm now going to go make dinner. I'm now going to go drive to yoga. I'm now thinking about something in 3 years. Oh my God, I'm now about to, try to numb myself out by watching Netflix series. So there's always this like part of you that's watching you do you. And the more that you can do that, the more you'll start to feel yourself in these different vibrational states. So it's like you'll walk into a grocery store and maybe you'll just start to kind of feel a little different, like you're in a little bit of an altered state, like you're sort of watching as if you are not part of it. Like, I'm in a grocery store, but I don't really feel like I'm here. Like I'm a visitor. That's when you start to feel that, then you're in a different dimension. You're in a different frequency. You're walking around, you're like, okay, I know I'm at the store getting my coffee, but I also feel like I'm not here. Like does anybody see me? Am I visible? Like, so there's this weird thing that starts to happen, where you're here, but you're also in a different frequency. So you're pulled a little bit out of the physical reality, even though you're standing in the physical reality. So you're like, dude, this is weird. Like, I know I'm here, but I also don't really feel 100% like I'm here. And that's us moving in and out of different dimensional fields. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I've definitely had that experience, and it almost feels like more of me is watching me being here than is in it. Like,
oh, that's beautiful. Like, perfect. Yes.
It's very weird. I want to touch on it's close to one of my questions. It's not even exactly one of my questions, but I'm going to get one of them in there, and it's this if I can do it, which is to not judge it, like to not judge where we're at. Like, I think we can be so programmed to be like, higher is better, lower is worse. I've done something wrong if I'm down here for this amount of time, or better if I'm up here. And to just not judge the experience, to be able to, as we anchor into this observer, to also anchor into that neutrality. Can you speak to a little bit about what helps you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has been one of the greatest tools And I truly 1000% live this way. I do not judge myself.
Mm.
Now, do I have limiting beliefs? Yes, 1000%. What does that mean? Well, I will think that, let's see, I'm trying to think of like an insecure thought. I'll have insecure thoughts like, people aren't going to read my book, or people think I'm stupid, or people are judging me right now. This video sounds dumb. I don't know, things like that. Sure, these things pop up. Absolutely. But I don't judge myself for having them.
Mm.
I don't say to myself, why are you thinking these things? You shouldn't be thinking these things. If you think these things, then you're in a lower vibration. You're not evolving. There's something wrong with you, right? So there's a very fine line between observing what you're thinking or feeling. Oh my God, I'm having anger. Okay, so what? Have the anger. I'm not supposed to feel anger. Anger isn't a good emotion. Anger means that there's something wrong with me. I just so I'm observing myself, allowing myself to have whatever limiting thought comes in, whatever limiting belief. These people don't want to hang out with me. These people don't want to talk to me. Whatever it is, that's a limiting belief. That's a thought. I observe it. And then there's a part of me that just allows myself to experience it. So it's like, okay, so what? What's next? Okay, so what? So I'm having this. It's not me.
Interesting. So can I just ask, like, just for clarity on that, if it comes in, okay, I see it, it's not me. So there's a change of position. I'm not identifying with it. I'm not making a story. And then you don't try and change it. You just allow it. There's not a resistance. Wow.
No, and I have compassion for myself. Like, okay, so lack's been coming up every once in a while. I'm driving to get my coffee in the morning, and I'll just like out of the blue lack, like, oh, you're not going to make enough money. Oh, you're going to stop making money. Like random, like
where did
it come from?
Yeah.
So what I do as an example is I'm observing the fact that I'm actually identifying as that thought. I truly believe that thought. Okay. So when the thought pops up, I'm grabbing it and I'm believing it. Okay. Then there's another part of me that I move to that's like, wow, look at you believing that thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at, I'm believing this thought.
You took that right in. Yeah. Look at you taking that in. That's not yours. Yeah.
But then I give myself permission. It's okay, Lorie, that you're believing this. Do you see? That's huge.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I don't judge myself and say, what's wrong with you? Why the freak are you thinking this?
Why are you not perfect yet?
Why are you not in abundance? You need to be in abundance. Start thinking about abundance. I do the opposite. I'm like, wow, look at what you believe. It's okay. It's okay because everything moves. I know in the deepest part of my being that everything is in movement. That idea of lack is not going to be here in 2 hours. Unless I pull it in as my reality and say, oh my God, this is me. I need to fix this. I need to change it. And I need to figure out what it is, where it comes from, how I change it. When you do that, in my experience, I'm anchoring it in, I'm grabbing it like a big rock. And I'm like, I'm supposed to figure this out. Instead, what I do is I'm like, oh, I'm feeling lack moving through me, and it's powerful. And I'm truly believing lack. I am really 1000, but I don't grab it because I know that in an hour, it's going to be gone. Do you understand? It's all flow. It's all movement. Yeah. It's just movement. So I don't need to do anything with it. I don't need to do anything with it.
Yeah.
I don't. And then all of a sudden the lack is gone. And I'm now, showing up and doing something. And that's how I've lived, right? However, it is extremely important to recognize that there is always a flip side. So with lack, there is abundance. So as I am simultaneously allowing myself to believe that thought of lack, you're never going to make enough money. You're going to lose all your money. You're going to lose your followers. You're going to lose these things, right? These things come up. You need to grab it. You need to control it. Okay. That's what lack's going to do. You have to be aware of what lack is going to pull you into. All right. And then you're observing yourself like, oh my God, I'm really believing this. It's okay, Lorie, you're okay. You're going to be okay. Then the even deeper level is, do you remember that there's abundance on this planet? yeah, I remember abundance, but I'm not feeling abundant. That's okay. But do you at least remember that there's abundance on the planet? Meaning there is a energy called abundance where you are always taken care of. Yeah, I know that, but I don't believe it right now. Okay, that's fine. But you are aware of abundance? Sure, I'm aware there's abundance that I can step into. I just don't want to. I'm going to have a temper tantrum right now with my lack. Okay, great. Have that temper tantrum with lack. So there's all these layers that we have to start to juggle. It's not one layer. I am lack. I have to control lack, figure out lack, and change lack. I am anger. I have to control anger, figure out anger, and change anger. It is, I'm experiencing this. I really, really believe myself to be this anger right now. I'm observing myself, experiencing it. I'm observing myself, identifying with it, right? And then you go back even further and say, okay, everything is movement. Everything is moving through me. Everything is moving through me. I just need to feel it and experience it and see it. That's it. The whole idea of the empowerment and choice can only happen if you know that you're not it, right? So once you realize that you're not the lack, while you are simultaneously believing yourself to be the lack, okay, then you get to choose how you want to move forward, which means that you can start to choose that there is abundance. You don't have to do anything with it, but can you start to choose to not just hold that lack? It's this, it's the greatest, the best analogy is you're on a river, which is life, flow, movement, off you go. You know, you created this beautiful raft that's probably going to pop at some point, but good thing you created a beautiful one, right? And you bump into a big rock that's called lack. And we can do one of two things. We can grab the rock and say, oh my God, you're huge. Holy cow. Why are you here? What is this? How do I let you go? How do I get around you? What do I do here? Jesus, you hurt. You're bumping. You're making me drown. Or you can bump into the lack, be like, oh, hey, what's up? And just keep going. And then you bump into another rock that's called anger. Oh, hey, what's up, anger? And you just keep going. Irritability. Yo, what's up, irritability? God, there's a lot of rocks in this river today. You know, you bump into joy. Yo, what's up, joy? This is the thing you want to think about in terms of like letting things move through you. When you think that you're like a rock star in something, right? Or you have a really beautiful emotion that you're feeling and you love it, like you're happy, you know, or you feel peaceful. You don't do anything with it. Do you talk to it? Do you say, oh my God, where did you come from? What do I do with you? How do I move through you? Like you do nothing with it. And then what happens?
Changes. Yeah.
Changes. So why do we not do that with the lack or with the anger or with the heartbreak? Because it doesn't feel good. And when something doesn't feel good, we think that we need to change it because we don't want to feel it. And we think it's going to last. When we have peace or joy, or when we're in love, we have that love feeling or whatever it is, we don't think to ourselves, oh my God, you know, this is going to last forever. You're just feeling it.
Yeah. I think that's such an amazing analogy. There's even like layers in this on the compassion that I've definitely noticed in myself, where you know, you can throw in like, oh, what did I do to put this rock here? There's so much judgment we can put on ourselves for it, you know, that just adds even more headache. And I love what you say, like, you don't have to focus on it and try and fix it, because it's going to change. And just being able to lean back into that awareness can get you back into the flow again. You know, like,
oh, I love that. Yeah, the leaning back into the awareness moves you back into that flow state. It's so true. When you're grabbing the rock, you know, but as soon as you lean back,
why won't you go anywhere? Like you're the one clinging onto it, trying to break it apart and fix it. And even
and like the judgment of like, what did I do to create this? You didn't do anything. It's part of the river.
Yeah. I heard a while ago, like your thoughts is your first experience of the external world, e.g. like they're not yours. It's like, I don't know, when you sip a drink, the first taste that you taste is the ingredients in the drink. Like if a thought pops in like lack for you the other day, like maybe you're just moving through some energy where that lack was really heavy, like it was just really strong in that area, comes into you. Hey, that doesn't mean it's you. And that really helped to separate it a bit for me, to be like, oh, that takes a little bit of this heaviness of the fun game of like self-judgment that I like to play in, and be like, you didn't create it, honey. Like it just it just was in the river today. Okay. You know, let it go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you didn't create, I mean, because there are these teachings, just talking to somebody, I forgot who it was. There's these teachings that if you don't have like the positive thoughts, if you don't have, you're creating that reality. Okay. So you need to change your thoughts to positive. Oh, the interview yesterday, this is where it came up. It's like, you're in charge of your reality, which means that if you are feeling anger or rage, you're creating it in some way, shape, or form, which means you need to change it so that you can have the life that you want, where there's no anger and rage and negativity. And I don't believe that.
No,
I
there's
don't
always going
believe
to be
that.
contrast, right?
Yeah. And if this idea, that whole paradigm is control.
Yeah, right. You can feel it as you're saying it. Like, I'm not allowed to have any of these things. I need to have all of these things in order to have all of these things. And like, yeah, you can. Yeah.
It's so restrictive. It's so controlling. It's so exhausting. Oh my God, I have to change. I better have positive thoughts. I need to have positivity. If you're having a bad day, just change your mind and tell yourself you're having a good day. I never do that because I don't ever try to control my day. I don't even consider my day a bad day. I don't do that. I don't even know what that means, a bad day. Now, have I had weird days the last couple of days? Yeah, but I'm just allowing the day to be what it is. I don't say to myself, oh my God, I'm in a bad mood. And if I don't want to be in this bad mood, I need to now tell myself that I'm in a good mood. Just tell yourself that is so weird to me. Like, because I just want to live in a flow state. So if I'm in what people would consider a bad mood, so what? It's going to change. It could change in 20 minutes. We have this idea that things are permanent and nothing's permanent.
And it's almost like it's a misdirection of where we are in it, almost like, okay, I need to be the one that removes all the rocks out the river. What? No, you're the flipping river. Like, you just flow around it. Like, what?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, my job is to pull all the rocks out of the river.
Like, that's exhausting and impossible.
Right. But that's what we're taught to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what did you bump into? Okay, now you're responsible for taking that rock and figuring out how you're going to get it out of the river so you can keep going. It's like, what?
I feel like that is literally personal development paradigm, and a lot of the, like, yeah, I really
1,000%.
do. And it's such hard work. It's such hard work. Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Okay.
And think of the judgment. Oh my God, you didn't get that rock out? Oh, well, I was able to get my rock out, and I got my rock out by doing ... And instead, it's designed to be very easy, not comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. But easy, which means that you just bump, and then you bump again, and then you bump again, and then you bump again. And you're like, but you're not trying to control. You're just like, oh, how was your day today? Well, I woke up in a good mood. And then all of a sudden this person put me in a bad mood. And then all of a sudden I got this and this happened. And then I got into massive amounts of lack. And then all of a sudden I had this great interaction with this person. Okay, great. That was a fabulous part of the river that you were in today. Right. So what? Like,
I was in the rapids today, like, you know.
Yeah, I was in the rapids today. Oh my God, what happened? I would love to hear your story, because my freaking river was so calm. I had the greatest I was floating all day. The sun was on me, right? It's like, that's the conversations I have with my girlfriend, like my best friend. We're just like, oh, what happened to you today? We don't try to change each other, fix each other, give each other like this advice of like, you know, I mean, I did give her some advice today. I had to like smack her around a little bit, but like, for the most part, it's like, you're just sort of, you know, everything's moving.
Yeah.
You know how you just experience it.
Yeah.
That we are programmed to believe that it is permanent. You hit a rock, you're stuck. You got to figure out now how to get rid of the rock. And we train ourselves by having these like positive thoughts, which what the positive thoughts do is just perpetuate this idea of running from suffering. And basically what you're doing is you're running from the flow of life. So we're not designed to like when you're in a higher state of consciousness, okay, on a regular level, on a regular basis, you're not controlling your thoughts. And what we have been programmed to believe is that in order to move into these higher states of consciousness, we have to what's the word I'm looking for? Convince ourselves.
Redirect.
Yeah, convince ourselves. And that's not how it works. It's a natural state of movement. It's a natural state. You'll just all of a sudden find yourself there. You don't need to convince yourself. You don't need to positive think yourself through it. If
Is
you
this
positive
true
think
with changing beliefs as well? Like, you know, if your beliefs are creating your reality, hey, okay, let's take the example of lack. Okay, I've hit the lack. I can choose to believe in the lack. I can choose to just see that the lack's there and that I'm believing in it and keep flowing, but I don't need to choose the abundance. Yeah, where does the choosing the belief to create the reality come into that?
I was going to let you find it. So
basically, I didn't.
Yeah, because but it's a good example of how okay, so you have lack, all right. You're recognizing that you're experiencing lack. You recognize that you are simultaneously believing in the lack and that you're not lack. That's key.
Yeah.
Okay. That's important. So I hit the rock, but the rock is just a rock. It's not here to stop me. It's just showing me what's in the river. Oh, I'm believing lack, right? Once you can see that you're believing lack, then you have the choice. Is there something else also available that I can tap into that I just may not be tapping into right now?
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, there's abundance in this world.
Yeah, I had this experience the other day. I was on the beach and I found that cycle that was going in my head about like, yeah, well, what will happen? And it was a lack cycle. And I was like, oh, and I literally witnessed myself and kind of made that noise at myself, like, oh, this cycle, this doesn't feel good. And I was like, okay, cool. We know this is lack. We know it's heavy right now. Cool. Do I want to focus on it? Maybe it's there. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to look around because I don't really enjoy focusing on the rock of lack right now. And I was like, look at all the leaves on that tree. There's so many of those. That's true abundance. There's abundance there. And then like, just like not trying to change it, but just being like, what else is available in my reality that I can also focus on? Yeah, so subtle rather than I have to go in there and change this and it has to be like all tools, control, I'm just going to lean back, open up. What else can I direct my focus towards? Oh, yeah. Love that.
Yeah. And then because then you're having compassion for yourself. You're just sort of like, it's okay. Little, Amy, little Lorie, you're really in this. That's okay. That's okay. But what else is available? What else can I start to believe in abundance? It's same with when you have like insecure thoughts. Like I'm stupid. I'm never gonna be able to do what I want to do because no one's gonna listen to me. Wow. Okay. Look at the thoughts you're having, Lorie. Look at those thoughts. You really, really believe that? Yeah, I freaking believe it. I definitely believe it. Okay. So here comes the observer. Is there perhaps a different reality? Is there perhaps a chance that maybe that's not true and maybe you are designed to speak to people or to change people's lives? Maybe. Okay, but I want to grab onto I suck. Okay.
I'm staying here with that. Thanks.
I'm staying here with I suck. But there's an empowerment to that. You're empowering yourself by the choice of staying in that. Okay. Now you know that there's a choice. So now you have to pull your big girl pants up and say, okay, well, now I'm choosing to believe in this. Well, it doesn't feel like a choice. Yeah, but sweetheart, you're choosing it. Okay, fine. I'm choosing it. This is what I do in my life. I'm choosing it. I don't care. I'm going to have a temper tantrum and I'm going to choose that I suck and that no one's going to do this. And that okay, I'm choosing it.
It brings in laughter as well when you when you have to accept that awareness that comes in like, well, why is this happening? Well, you fucking chose it because everything's a fucking choice. I fucking chose it. There's that moment.
And then you have the argument of like, you're like, I didn't choose this. And it's like, no, you did choose it. And there's always a flip. So the empowerment and the choice is starting to pull in something else. So instead of trying to like positive think your way into something that just feels so inauthentic to me, start to pull in what else is available. So when you have lack, do you believe that there is abundance? Just start asking yourself that. Do you believe that you are worthy? Start asking yourself that. Are you worthy to step out into the world? I'm not worthy. Let's get real. Let's not fake this shit and try to positive think yourself into I love myself. Like, let's get the way in, the way through is to be as raw and authentic as possible, which means, wow, I do not believe I'm worthy. Okay, look at that.
This is where I am at. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't believe I'm worthy. Wow, look at what okay, so you're believing that. Fabulous. Is there a small little chance that maybe that's not true? Nope, it's 100% true. Okay, great. At least you know that you are 100% unworthy. And then it starts to peel apart. Because then you're like, oh my God, do I really believe that I'm unworthy? Do I see? But when we identify as the unworthiness, we can't even see that we're choosing unworthiness. We can't even see the battle that we're having. Right. So it's like we have to start to have that battle like you had on stage. We have to have that. Yeah. We have to have that all the time, which is like, I'm in lack right now. I am really playing in this lack. Wow. Okay. How can I pull myself out of this lack? Okay. Let me look at the trees. Because what you did is you energetically pulled yourself out of that cycle. Okay. Which allows you to start to get a different perspective, a different energy, a different feeling. And then from there, can you be like, wait, what is abundance again? Okay, abundance is an energy that tells me that I'm taken care of. Oof, that's a doozy. I don't know how to trust that right now. Okay, but do you want to jump back into lack? No, I don't really want to jump back into lack, but lack may pop back up. But let me just get present with what's here. Okay, now I'm going to go jump in the ocean, or now I'm going to go walk and get a coffee. You just kind of let it go. You let it, you don't need to do anything with it.
Yes. That's such a powerful point. When you're in that cycle, rather than trying to flipping solve the cycle, choose, get out of it, fix it, just be like, this is a cycle. What else is there? And go and do something else. Like, and then you change your vibration, and then either the problem doesn't exist, the energy isn't there, something else is coming in, you're back in the flow. I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm going to try and ask you some book specific questions now. We're going to see.
Okay. Okay. Let's go.
Okay. So based on this wonky experience of jumping between dimensions, do you have, because I know, and the human brain enjoys, do you have a sense of where we're at as a collective, where humanity is at in terms of what percentage is anchored into 3D, 4D and 5D currently?
That's a really good question. The way that my guides have kind of showed it to me, it's more of like a percentage, right? So like so the earth herself as a physical body and as a consciousness is at least 80% of her energy is in a fifth dimensional frequency, which is powerful, because if the physical body is holding 80% or more of a frequency, then it's anchored in, which means that it is your physical reality. So everything you're seeing is that fifth dimensional frequency. And 99.9% of humans have not anchored 80% of a fifth dimensional frequency into their bodies yet. Okay. So the earth is all good. She's like, I'm chilling and waiting for y'all to catch up to me, right? Which is a very difficult thing to understand, because we are kind of in a past, almost in a way. We are trying to catch up energetically to where earth is. When your body starts to increase in frequency, it pulls itself out of time. When you're in a slower frequency, it's like a record player. Okay. So when a record is in a third dimension, it's just playing its regular speed. Okay. Then you have the same record being played on a record player that's in a higher frequency. That record is speeding up. So the song is faster. So you're hearing lyrics that you're not hearing yet on the third dimension. Okay. So like the lyric,
you're ahead of it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. This song is ahead of this song.
Yes. Yeah.
Based on a span of energy. So the fifth dimension is ahead of the third dimension. So earth is in a different kind of way of being, and we're catching up to her. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the human bodies are, the majority of the human collective is still in third dimensional frequencies. So most of the human body is still holding third dimensional frequencies. There's probably, I don't know, and I don't want to pretend to know, but if I were to just throw out a number, there's probably about 20% of the human collective that has anchored into a fourth dimensional frequency, which means that 80% of the frequency in their body is now anchoring that fourth dimension. Now, the fourth dimension is what you experience. It's what you and I are experiencing a lot. It's that wonkiness. It's like we've pulled ourselves out of the third dimensional physicality, and now we're kind of moving in between this fifth dimensional realm and this third dimensional realm. So it's like, wait, like, you know, you're starting to access different states of being, different states of awareness, more presence, more flow. You're not attaching as much. Things are leaving your life. You're popping out and people are going away. Your job doesn't resonate. That's you stepping into this more of a fourth dimensional realm, this fourth dimensional frequency. And there's probably, you know, if you think about like think of the physical body, and, you know, you've got all this energy in it, and there's maybe this much for people, 20% of population, maybe less, where they're still dealing with the third dimensional trauma and the programming, right? Then you've got, you know, about 80% of it is in a fourth dimensional frequency. And then you've got a tiny part up here, a fifth dimensional frequency that people are starting to hold in their bodies. What's going to end up happening is that third dimensional frequency is going to get less and less. The fourth dimensional frequency is going to get more and more, and then it's going to merge, and the fifth dimensional frequency is going to start to do this in the body, right? And just start to kind of take over and anchor in. So it's this weird sort of dissolving of the third dimensional frequencies, which is the trauma, the programming, the shadow, right? It's what that's why you need to feel everything, because everything that you're feeling is this piece right here, is these frequencies.
There are rocks.
Yeah, they're the rocks. And if you can just let yourself hit the rocks, then these frequencies start to naturally dissolve. And then your body starts to hold more and more of that fourth dimensional frequency, which reduces the amount of trauma and triggers. And then the fifth dimensional frequency, the more that you're in the fourth dimension, the more that you start accessing the fifth dimension. Mm-hmm. And then as you start accessing the fifth dimensional frequencies, it starts to come into your body more and more. And the more the fifth dimensional frequencies start to come into your body, the more any third dimensional frequencies that you're holding are just going to naturally start dissolving. The way it dissolves is that you have to see it. You have to see the only way this dissolves is by seeing it and feeling it, which is the trauma, the limiting beliefs, all the triggers, all the things you don't want to feel, all the things that you're trying to positive think your way through, right? This is why this whole idea of like trying to get yourself into higher frequencies and trying to positive think your way through, you're not in charge. Right. The only thing you're in charge of is to just see what rises, see what pops up, see it, feel it, and then start choosing other things that may be available at the same time. And so these energies start to go whoop, and then the energies in your body start to go into that fourth and fifth dimensional frequency. I would say probably, if I were to throw out a number, 20% of the human collective is anchored. I would say maybe 0.001%, if any, humans anchored in the fifth dimension right now. It's a lot of people will say they are, but it's very different to be anchored into a fifth dimensional frequency and to be experiencing fifth dimensional frequencies.
Yeah. That was such an important distinction that I found reading the book as well. It's really helpful. And I think it's also just such, I think it's really empowering and encouraging to recognize, hey, if you're feeling all your feels at the moment, my last podcast episode was on this, which was, you know, if you're in that chrysalis stage of like really feeling a lot of density, awesome, it's coming up, good job, you know, like you're not doing anything wrong, you know, you're not doing a worse job. And someone's like, love and light, like, you know, like actually you are in it, you are doing it, that is the work, that is the sacred work, like that needs to be what everyone's recognizing, like, right?
Every time I'm in like the dark stuff, I'm like, every time I'm beat up, every time I'm like, yes, okay, fabulous. This is because that is where the evolution is.
Yeah. And what's like the other side of this rock? Like every time you move through something, there's a little bit more space for that 4D, a little bit more space for more of that light. And it always brings, like, that space always brings something more expansive, more fun. Yeah, I love that. My next question is not at all related. We're going to see if we can jump over to it though.
I love it. Go.
Which is mind control. mind control. We know we're in a world, for those that are awake and waking up, that where this is not a small thing. And what was interesting to me was, after the second fall of grace, you speak to this in the book, how the reptilians that are living within humans and the humanoids, this hybrid race, get taken off the earth. 90% of them, 10% of them left, but that's still a few thousand. And my brain goes to, well, on this planet, it feels to me like there's a very small amount of humans that are controlling the vast population still. So are those small, is that small group of humans, or are they these hybrid races or reptilians, or is there an energetic influence that's happening, or is it just an expression of the 3D in its beautiful polarity, an expression of its level of consciousness, which is greed and control and power over?
It's all of it. It's all of the above.
Okay.
It's all of it. The majority of, you want to think of it as like the best analogy that I can use is like a board of directors in a big company like FedEx or something. Okay. So the board of directors are absolutely reptilians. What that means is that, not to get into like too woo-woo-y, but like the energy is a reptilian energy. The energy has moved into the physical body. The soul or consciousness that is in that body is taken over. So there are two energies now in the body. There is the consciousness that originally incarnated, and now there is this reptilian energy that is inside that has sort of taken over and is playing the role as the human. There are also humanoids, which are on the planet. And you could imagine that those may or may not be part of the board of directors. They may be like the presidents, right? And so as you go lower and lower on the chain of command, it becomes less reptilians and humanoids and more just humans that are being mind controlled.
Okay, that's so helpful. Yeah.
And then you go down and down and down. And the more that you go down in the pyramid of the organization, the less that it becomes the reptilians and the humanoids, and more of just the mind control that has dripped down from this very small percentage of energies. Yeah. Then the humanoids are actual physical, kind of a race. They're like an actual designed DNA structured freakazoid thing that we've encountered, I'm sure. But the reptilians are inside those humans. Lots of people will say, oh, they shape shifted, their eyes changed, weird stuff happened. That's the reptilian energy that is actually in the human body. The soul is still there.
Yes, I've met someone like that. Yes, well, yeah, you can see it. That's so fascinating. Sorry, that was a really like loud.
It's freaky.
It is freaky.
It's freaky.
What I find really helpful in like just for people trying to get their head around this, that are just maybe waking up to it and they're like, what? Because I know it's like pretty out there for some people, is it amazes me, and yet it's not surprising. So much of our popular culture and like what we watch on Netflix, the films, Star Wars, like actually there's a lot of truth in a lot of the things that's out there, right? Like,
dude, have you seen Men in Black?
Yes, right. That came up when I was reading the book, and it made me laugh so much because my brother's in spirit, and I heard him laughing in my ear because so many things we experienced when he was here, I'm now waking up to like their real significance. And when I do, every time he's like pissing himself. And that was one of them. When you were talking about the bases, and then I was watching a video, you talking about the bases, and I was like, it's absolutely Men in Black. I fucking knew it was real.
My friend Rodney, he's like, hey, last week, he's like, have you ever seen Men in Black? And I was like, I've never seen that movie. And he's like, dude, it's a documentary. You've got to watch it. So I started watching it, and I was like, oh my God, they're giving me the answers to the questions that I had. Cause I always wanted to know. One of the things they told me, one of the things that Men in Black tells you basically is, I always wanted to know, like, how have people not spoken about these things they've seen? How have these things happened? You know, the ships that come down, or the
has it been kept quiet?
How has it been kept quiet? And then they showed that little device they did, and and I was like, oh, holy cow. Like, oh my God, it answered. I was like, And yeah, so you're right. They are always showing us in film, like, hey, here's what's actually happening. And we're like, oh my God,
even
science fiction.
like Lord of the Rings, the trees,
Yes,
like it just blows my mind.
I know. It's crazy. It's right in front of our faces.
Yeah, that's what's so hilarious in a way when you wake up to it, because you're just like, how is no one seeing this?
Well, here's something that pops
we do
in.
know.
People have a hard time believing that there are reptilian energies. And then people actually have a hard time believing that we're energy. But here's the thing, this came in a while ago and I was like, damn, that's a really good question, Lorie. For everybody that doesn't believe in this stuff, I would just simply ask, okay, so we're afraid to die, right? We're afraid to die because we don't know where we're going to go. Am I going to go to heaven? Am I going to go to hell? Well, who's going there?
Yeah, right.
Who
So simple that I love that.
Who's going there? If your body stays here, which it does, because it gets buried, because you go buy a burial thing for it, who's leaving?
Yeah. Then
who's
you've
going to heaven?
accepted that you are more than your body. It's like the placebo effect, isn't it? If you accept that the placebo effect is having an effect, you are believing in the power of the mind. Like it's already done,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're afraid, if you know that you're going to heaven, who's going to heaven?
Yeah.
If it's a soul or a spirit, then what is that soul or spirit?
Yeah.
And if you believe in something outside of the physical form, why is it so hard to believe that there is other energies as well? And how did you get into the body?
Oh, yes. What's interesting about the whole, if it's in popular culture and films and this kind of thing, is it's almost like that's the way to divert us away from it being real. Oh, it can't be real because it's in a show. It's genius. It can't be real because it's sci-fi. It's not real. That's a different thing. They've separated it. Like, oh my goodness, it's like this way of compartmentalizing shadow as well,
Yep.
Yeah.
When I was writing the book, I was like, dude, you guys, I said, this is like a Star Wars movie. This is like a movie that you would watch on Netflix, that's how I was experiencing the book. And so it's fascinating to think about all the movies that are actually real, but because they're in the movies, that's why the more that they can manipulate us with these movies, the more we will not believe it to be true because it's in the movies.
Yeah. And it's giving us a place for our awareness because a part of us does know it to be true, and it's placing it into a realm where we go, yeah, it exists, but not in a way that's in real reality. So it's like it allows us to acknowledge it, because everything wants acknowledgement, without having to acknowledge it in a way that brings it into reality, which is just absolutely genius and scary at the same time. Okay, I've got so many other questions, but which is my most important one? This is I've got two most important ones.
I love it.
One is, and my mom, like, I was trying to explain the book to my mom at dinner, which is hard.
How do you explain the book, girl? Tell me, because I can't explain it.
She actually did a pretty good job of keeping up. Like, she can see quite a lot, so it was piecing together a few things. But the question she came up with, and I was like, I don't know either. So I'm gonna have to ask you for her as well.
I might not know. I might not have the answer, but
you might not. But let's enjoy the question, if not, which is why it was such a tragedy, the second fall from grace, that these 4D races came in. Why would Earth send out the request? We love her. We're part of her. We're on her. But why send out that request when you're so close to the finish line? That's a bit of the book that I just. And why would the Galactic Federation lower the 5D when people can come in above 5D, and we know above 5D is no risk? Like,
why would they open it up? Why would they allow? How could they not have known? It's a question I can't answer. How could they have not known that the 4D races would have come back in?
They knew they existed. They knew that expression of consciousness.
I'm wondering if it's because, as I'm asking the question, perhaps they thought that because the Earth was in 48% of its light, right? So it was so close. So perhaps the risk was less than the reward, meaning they thought that there would be the potential of it not impacting. So even if they opened it up in order to allow the more intense interaction with the higher dimensional realms, perhaps they thought that the higher dimensional realms, the impact that it would have physically by coming in, literally physically being there, would quickly raise it up. And again, remember, if it's at 50%, the lower dimensional realms can't pull it. So perhaps they thought that the risk was worth it because they would be able to lift up fast. Do you know what I mean? If it was at 48% and all they needed to do was get to 50, perhaps they thought, we don't care if they come in because we're going to be able to go up fast enough. And that didn't happen. That's the only thing that I can rationally wrap my head around, because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you risk it? Why not just wait until it naturally happens?
Especially because Earth was so graceful in honoring not getting involved with 3D and starting at 3D again in the first place. You know, like there's what came to me in it, this is where my brain got to, was that from that higher perspective, they just didn't think 4D would be so focused on going solely in such a against the highest good, because those high levels of consciousness think for the highest good, right? Like they're not spending much time polarized, thinking about self, like that's not taking up much maybe of their consciousness. So whereas in 4D, that's really can be really, really weighted. So I wonder if it was like an oversight based on the level of consciousness even. I don't know.
It could be. And I also don't think they realized, because listen, there had never been hybridization programs. There had never been abduction. There had never been that stuff. So that wasn't something they had ever experienced, the higher dimensional realms, the Galactic Federation. They didn't foresee that. So perhaps it's true. They didn't really realize what, I mean, there's a lot of chaotic crap that the 4D races had done in the past millions of years ago, but I just don't think they understood. Listen, it's the same thing that happened millions of years ago. They had how could you?
It was an experiment, basically. Like
now when you look back, you're like, you guys, how did you not know that consciousness was going to come in and play around and create races and pull humanity down? They didn't even know that the human body, this was all an experiment. They didn't know that the human body would be able to impact the frequency of the planet. Millions of years ago, they didn't realize, they just thought the human body was going to come in and participate and be able to go with the earth and play with it. And you want to try something fun? Come on in and watch. We're going to move into these higher realms. They didn't realize that the actual physical body impacts the planet. To us, we're like, of course it does. But that's because we're now in the physical reality. And that's where the Lightworker came from. The Lightworker came from the awareness of what happened millions of years ago, which was that the human bodies actually pulled the earth down in frequency. And so they're like, oh my God, if the human body can pull the earth down in frequency, then the human body can pull the earth back up. And then they said, we need what we call light workers. They didn't call them light workers, right? But we call them light warriors, light workers, whatever you want to call them. And that's where this whole idea came from, because they saw the impact. So yeah, it's mind-boggling to us because we're in it now. We look, it's like history. You look back and you're like, how could you be so, it's like gravity. Like, what do you mean you didn't know there was gravity? Of course there's gravity. Well, before there was gravity, you didn't realize there was gravity, right? So it's kind of one of those things, but it is a good question because you're like, come on, you guys, are you that stupid? You created
and it's so heartbreaking as well, because like,
they were so close. And the destruction that happened, all the civilizations that were evolving, and
so was that Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient Egypt, was that then, or was Atlantis and Lemuria first fall of grace and ancient Egypt second?
Atlantis and Lemuria were millions of years ago. Ancient Egypt, right? Machu Picchu, a lot of the civilizations even in like Glastonbury and wherever those rocks are, there were ancient civilizations there, all over North America, South America, Central America, so many places where these civilizations were being birthed, and they were doing it. They were more highly evolved than we are right now as physical humans.
That makes so much sense, right?
So do
you have an awareness of where you came in on this. And I know obviously we have many lives, many at the moment Akashic records, but in this life, do you have a sense of what group and type of light worker you are, and quoting and like you hold, like, does that given to you in the book? It's just part of my brain loves that.
Yeah, I didn't actually, it's weird. I didn't actually connect to any of the three groups. I have been told by my guides that I've never had a physical life here before, that this is my only physical life.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I've known that this has been happening. And so there's an awareness that I've had of this experience. I also have this weird intuitiveness that it's almost like I came direct, like there was a call that went out or something, you know, imagine that the Galactic Federation of Light, they put out this call of like, hey, we need people to come in and take on this really, like, because I don't think I was the only one that was designed to share this story. I just think I was the only one that courageously said yes and followed through with it.
So badass. I really love you for that.
I think they're like, holy shit, she's actually doing it. Oh my God, she's actually doing it. Holy shit.
Where are we with the 100? Well, we've got one that's considering. As long as she can still drink wine, she's up for it. Yeah.
Seriously, there's 100 humans on the planet that, you know, that could have picked this up. And that's how powerful we are. And that's how courageous it is to do what we came here to do. But yeah, that's why I don't think I'm special. I just think that I somehow had the balls to just keep going, you know? But I think that I feel like I came from like source or something. And I just was like, okay, I'll try it as consciousness to jump in. I don't really know. I don't try to like understand that the bigger piece. It's too much for me. It's like, well, what does source mean? Right. And I think the book gave a little bit of a pretty cool description of it, but even that is hard to wrap your head around. You know, it's like, what?
It serves a purpose. Like for me, what I find really helpful about it is like, we're all sparks of source. So that just levels the playing field. We're all equal in that. So it doesn't matter how many lives, like at the end of the day, angelic, galactic, at the end of the day, we're all sparks of source. So that's so beautiful. Yeah.
I love that question, and I'm so humbled in knowing that I'm just like you guys reading it. Like I didn't make this up, so I'm having the same question. I went right there with you. Like, why the hell did they do that? You know, so it's an interesting, you know, historical, you know, book that I think really has the potential to empower us, free us, liberate us while we courageously, it's almost like, oh my God, I'm a badass. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. I came here for this.
Right.
You know, I came here to do this and I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And it feels like it brings together like the true innocence and divinity in humanity at the same time as taking away a narrative of victimhood and bringing back like sovereignty and empowerment. And that for me, I think, is something that awoke in me reading the book and is still anchoring in. And I'm so grateful for that. Because that's what it's all about, right? We're remembering we're sovereign beings, we're remembering our creative power, and it's gonna be really fucking fun. Like, it's gonna be so fun. Where are we going? It's looking good.
It is. It's designed, we're designed to move out of this suffering, this pain, this victimhood, the imprisonment. It doesn't mean that we're not going to see it, and that you know, it means that we have to see it. It means that we have to courageously stand side by side with each other and wrap our arms around the people that we can't understand, because they're right there with us, you know. They're in the arena as well. And I was saying this yesterday in my Untangled series. I was like, you know, just because you can't understand how somebody's living, you can't understand the choices that they're making, doesn't mean that they're not standing side by side with you in the arena, right? And the best way that we can navigate this is to be able to open our hearts to everyone that's standing in the arena, even the ones that we can't we can't understand, that make us pull our hair out. And we're all in this, and we're all doing the best we can. Some of us are deeply, deeply mind controlled. Some of us are semi-mind controlled, and some of us are starting to step into our power and our sovereignty and breaking free. But we're all in the same arena, right? It's how do we want to treat each other in this arena, right? How do we want to treat each other and see each other, and the powers that be, that little board of directors, they want us to fight against each other in the arena, because the more that we fight against each other and create that divide, the less we're going to actually look up and say, holy cow, what is actually going on here?
Right. I mean, there's a film, Don't Look Up, and we've just had the Marvel film with mind control, right? It's all out there. It's all out there.
Dude, that movie was like, please stop. You're literally, you are slapping me in the face right now. This is so embarrassing. That movie was so embarrassing. I was like, is this for real? Like, what? I am so embarrassed to be a human right now. Like, oh my God. Literally Don't Look Up. Oh my God. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
And I think that came out like the end of 2020, maybe the beginning of 2021. I was like,
Contagion came out just before COVID. Like, I mean, it's these things, you can't make it up. You really can't make it up. So compassion, basically laughter and compassion. That's the only way we're going to get through this. Remembering that, we're not against each other, and it's part of 3D polarities. Like, it can be and it can be and, like, with all of the debates that come up, I'm like, we can hold both of these. You are that intelligent, you are that expansive, and coming together, doing it together. Some of the words I hear you use often: humility, truth, compassion there, and fun. Are there any other values that you couldn't do without at this time that you want to throw into that cauldron for people as we end?
I mean, humility, compassion, vulnerability, rawness, having fun, lighten up, try not to judge yourself, really try not to judge yourself, and not bypassing the uncomfortable. Befriend the uncomfortable, befriend it, come along for the ride. It's key. It's just key to moving through this. Starting to realize that all the ways in which we have been taught to live in this world, it's inverted, it's flipped. You kind of want to start watching. It's
look
like,
for paradoxes, make it a game.
Yes. Like, oh, wow, let's flip that one. Okay, that's the natural way of living. Got it. Oh, that's how it's actually designed to be. Got it. It's and it's going to be an interesting ride. It's a beautiful gift to be here, and a lot of people have a hard time with that, but it truly, truly is a beautiful gift. And we came here for this. This is magic, what we're in. It's a miracle. It's a freaking miracle what we're doing. It's mind blowing. And to actually feel it, right? Like you're feeling yourself you feel yourself being plugged in, like you're actually physically experiencing it. So it's not pretend. It's not, oh, I don't know. It's like, oh, no. This is happening. I'm going through this. And so the more compassion, the more fun, the more ease, the more lightening up, not taking it so seriously. I always am just like, okay, next. I'm not trying to heal. I'm not trying to solve problems. I'm literally just doing my best to have as much compassion for myself, because no matter what, you're going to make it wherever that is. You're naturally moving through that river. You can't stop it. So how do you want to go through the river? It's up to you.
Thank you so much. I don't have to focus on healing it or fixing it. Like, you're being led through it. Like, lean back into that position of observer and have some fun along the way, even if there are some hard knocks to begin with. It's designed to be easy. I understand why we've made it so difficult, because we've been trying to understand this world in a physical structure that's actually energetic. So think about it. We've been trying to figure out an energetic world through the lens of physicality.
So we've been trying to control everything and make sense of everything and build things and change things. And it's all an illusion because everything is actually just energetic. And so energy is designed to be easy. It's designed to naturally flow, naturally move, the opposite of what we've been programmed to do. And so the more that we step out of that programmed state of physically being in charge, like I need physical proof, I need to change this, I need to heal this, and you start to realize, oh wait, this is all just an energetic experience. I'm actually supposed to be in a flow state. I'm actually just supposed to let everything move, even though the whole world has told you the opposite. And you don't believe that. Start practicing it. Your whole world will change. Yeah, it's a miracle. It's just a miracle. It's crazy when you're like, oh my God, this is really actually easy. Holy shit.
And then you forget again. And then you remember again.
Forget. Exactly. 5 minutes, we hang up and 5 minutes goes by, and then I'm in the state of like, so it's just this constant ebbing and flowing of remembrance and not remembering, not remembering.
Yeah. That's what makes it the roller coaster and enjoyable ride. Like you don't go to the theme park and go on the most boring ride, right? Like you go for like the big ride because that's the most fun. That's what we've done with Earth, and I think on a soul level we probably all know that, so might as well embrace the ride. Lorie, this has been such a joy. It's been so much fun. I didn't ask you majority of my questions on my little script, but I think it was perfect anyway. So
it was so good, and it was what everybody need. Whatever came through is what we all need to hear right now. So I've really enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you for having me on and letting me share so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for writing the book. For anyone that has not found this book and read it, I really feel like every human should read this book when they're ready. It is an absolute game changer. It's such an activation. It's such a gift. Check out Lorie's pages on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and I know you have a Patreon site as well where and your Untangled series. So there's many places you can find Lorie, whether it's just a little 2-minute video to help you find some clarity in your day, or whether it's a deeper dive. You're such a gift. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you're doing, for having the courage to do what you do, and for keeping on going. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Beautiful. Thanks.